can I comment about the looseness? And I think I've mentioned it before.
Yeah.
It's when you have that kind of looseness, and you, as you say, trust. You also like you kind of depend on the skill of people that they bring to the table, and
that's okay though, but you
the
need
skill
those
of
constraints to do it right, though. To
yeah,
enjoy it, you need the
and
constraints.
basically the skills. It's not only like skills in language or skills. It's like skills and also social interaction that this group has. I mean, if we were like a bunch of really people that didn't go along very well, I think this could have been a lot of conflicts around because there are so little structure. So that makes it kind of risky, or it also very very dominant people.
That's the biggest
have a
issue there.
lot of room to do like to do stuff because I'm a very dominant person in those. I feel really frustrated when things are going too slow and I dive in and talk a lot, and so you also have that's like with that looseness, give room for that kind of disorder.
That's why I like to talk about the constraints, because if you have the constraints, then what was looseness that can fall apart suddenly becomes energy that goes somewhere and you don't know where, and that's good, right? If you have the right pieces in place that orient you, and then your mind goes somewhere that you can take it. It's a very critical thing to all role playing. And for those of you who haven't seen it, my consulting sessions with Ola about his game and design are almost a textbook of working out how you wanted to structure it in exactly this fashion. So it's and Max and Helma and I actually played, in an earlier version of it, and then that prompted us to talk about, what to do. So I think it's very related. I mean, that whole set of videos is like totally related to everything we're talking about here.
Exactly.
Yeah. Nathan, did you want to say something?
Yes, I think one of the biggest issues we had is we were trying too hard. The game is supposed to be played over an evening,
which is crazy.
We decided which is crazy. No,
sure,
this is crazy. This is crazy. I totally agree. But that also means that we are not supposed to spend half an hour to decide what word we should pick up.
Yes.
And because we were trying to be, I don't know if too smart is a word, we were trying to be too engaged with the game, trying to make it trying to make a community trying to make words that were too specific or too connected,
we set too high complex. A bar, right? We set too high a bar, right?
Too high a bar. Yes. And
so maybe you play Dialect a little more playfully and a little less responsibly. Might be kind of more fun. Yeah.
I
That's
think
an interesting idea.
Yeah.
It's too many intellectuals, right? Too many intellectuals in one spot.
I don't know if that's a problem. I had a problem with the setting as such. I mean, the backstory we chose wasn't speaking to me at all.
That's interesting. I loved it myself, but yeah, go on. Yeah.
Yes, everybody loved it. So my first hurdle was trying to keep myself from hating it.
Interesting.
That's pretty hard. But from being totally disconnected and out of play. And I maybe that showed. That still showed. I was like, I mean, I was struggling with the whole concept of this group of thieves. And by that, I was, as Nathan says, trying too hard a lot of times, I think.
That's an interesting point.
As a player.
If we go back to who you play with what people you play with this. When I see this game, I like the concept of building a world and so on. But as you say, if you're gonna have some people to play with, it should be people that have played role-playing games before, and it should be people, as you say, that you're comfortable with and gonna take this chill. Because when I walked into this, I was like, oh yeah, we're gonna have this thief setting, we're gonna do this, and we're gonna really get this and this in. So after a few sessions, I was left thinking maybe Mars would have been easier, because then I wouldn't have been thinking like, oh, we're gonna make this, everything's gonna make sense after this and so on.
Right.
So
that's an interesting question.
Yeah, because nobody's going to Mars.
Right.
So you can build up. Maybe
you can make things up, and it's okay. Right.
Yeah, precis. Because we don't have any like, oh, if you look this doesn't make any sense. But the criminal culture, we can look that up and we can picture it. So I totally agree with that. That I at least feel like I was trying too hard in the beginning, but then I'm like, let's take loose that food.
Right.
Yeah, pancakes.
Oh my God. If we hadn't stopped you, we would have had a whole grocery store of slang.
I think as soon as I said something, Ron was like, no, that doesn't. Oh, wait. I love it.
I was so tired of food by the third age. I was like, no more fucking food. So,
it felt like you always like first said no and then like fought a little bit and like, yeah, we gotta go with it.
Yeah. No, that's good. Well,
Helma, I'm interested in you played it one time before. Yes, you played it one. What's the difference between this session and that the one? If you look at from the perspective that we have now, was it similar patterns that emerged, or was it?
It wasn't as bumpy. But I don't think I can set the finger on why. Whether it was, I think it was probably a lot of small things. But I'm completely lost. I mean, if you would tell me, try to figure out what to do better next time by comparing the games, it's difficult. They are not really comparable. For all numbers of reasons. One thing is definitely this game is going to be different every time you play it with a group.
Yeah, it will certainly be subject.
I mean, that group was like, we didn't really know each other. We never played together, apart from 2. We were 4. And one difference I was thinking about very much is, in that case, we basically played everything in some way or other all together. It was very, very rare, and only in the beginning that there was only 2 of the 4 in the scene. And somewhere halfway through with us, I was thinking, if that makes things easier for everybody to stay in the game and to drive things forward. And another thing is, we were faster. We played longer, a little bit longer, and we were playing faster. So the one thing I had difficulty with, because I loved it so much, was shortening our discussions out of play. And that, I think it was a mistake. I wouldn't want to miss them because they are part of the highlights of the game for me. But for the flow of the play, it probably was bad, really, really bad.
So it's a lot of things to. Go ahead, Ola. Sorry.
No, but I've been looking at, but I've not looked them through all of them. But there's a lot of actual plays on YouTube, and people are being really positive and through the plays. And I would the things that I've seen, I've not looked through like 2 hours of actual play, but the things I've seen is what you mentioned that they seem to be faster and they're faster paced, and they don't get that kind of like spelkramp that I mentioned. There's much more fast paced and much easier in that way, and I don't know why.
Well, when and if, hold on a second, annoying thing. When and if I examine any of those, the first thing I'm going to look at is when they shift into the scene after coming up with a word. And I'm going to see if there are play practices that could very well be called rules at work that particular group has formulated or fallen into or habitually already do, maybe, for how they start play. Because for me, it wasn't struggling with the word itself that typically took up the most time or was the most difficult. Some of them, yes, but not all. That wasn't typically the case. It was more of initiating play and having what our characters were doing and saying actually occur. And so that's the part that I keep focusing on, is the part that is lacking, rules. And so when I look at those actual play videos, that's what I'm going to be aiming at, and I'm very confident that I could even write a little rule book for how this group does it for each of the different groups. And maybe they learned them in other games together, or maybe they were just such great people that they were able to formulate them for dialects, right there in the moment, or whatever. But those rules will be there. They will be observable when we look, so that they know what they're supposed to do with the potential imagined material. Rather than just saying, oh, okay, I guess we have to make up a bunch of stuff somehow. That's my thinking.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Between the Mountain Witch and Chaotic, and I mean, these are some as play experiences. They're pretty, pretty thought provoking. Never mind all the crazy bullshit.
I'm not finished with half of them.
Yeah, and never mind all the crazy bullshit that I get up to besides Spielenshus too. So yeah. Yeah.
But I think they were great also because they were all kind of different versions of role playing in one way or another.
Yeah.
Mountain Witch was very simple and good, very open, and then it came Chaotic with role playing with a twist, kind of.
Yeah.
And then the hard, pretty cool version of Dialect. Like it was.
Yeah.
For me, it was like level 1, level 2, level 3.
Well, my most famous essay about...
We are really working here.
Yeah,
we should get paid for it.
I agree. No, that's no surprise that my most famous essay is called "System Does Matter." Right.
Yeah, so. We're living proof for that.
Mm-hmm.
But I love it, every second of it.